And good Wednesday to you. I'm James Brierton. It is Wednesday, March the 1st, 2023. We have a jam-packed evening for you. You're taking a live look right now at SpaceX Dragon called Endeavour. In just a little while, 4 men are going to make another attempt at lifting off tonight from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida as they are set to begin a 6-month stay at the International Space Station. We'll take you down to Kennedy, get live reports, and a look behind the scenes at how a launch like this happens coming up in just a few minutes. We will keep an eye on what's happening at Kennedy as we welcome in the rest of our Carolina Weather Group panel on this live show on this Wednesday night. I got Frank Strait in Columbia, South Carolina, Scotty Powell in Myrtle Beach, and Jared Smith in Charleston, South Carolina. Jared's very familiar with that rocket. We were keeping a close eye on it the other night. The man who was pushing all of the buttons and did a fabulous job. My continued appreciation to Jared. I'll see you guys back here in a few minutes when we have the Crew-6 astronauts come on out and wave goodbye once again to their friends and family. But until then, we'll let you guys talk about a potential severe weather threat coming up this week in the Carolinas. Jared, why don't you take it from here?
You know, it's going to be interesting to see if anything can happen. There's a lot of wind. There's a lot of shear. But that ridge is, Frank, I don't know about you, but I've been looking at this for the past couple of days, and look, when the NAM is not going apocalyptic,
right,
right,
right, when the cams are saying, whatever.
It's you know, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is you know, when I'm looking at this, you know, I mean, it's going to be windy on Friday. I think that's you know, that's a certain
day
takeaway.
for sure.
A certain takeaway for that, and you know, in looking at the data and looking at everything there, are those astronauts walking out now?
It does seem like they're getting a head start here. They're going to go to the elevator, and if you were with us on late Sunday night, they couldn't get the elevator door to close initially. So we'll see here. If
always a bad
sign
when the elevator's not working.
Right, let's see. It looks
Yeah,
like
and then when they got to the launch pad,
nope.
Is this a replay?
I know. It's like deja vu all over again.
So when we were here Monday or Saturday, Sunday, whatever day that was, it's all a blur. When we were here for that, we saw the
very much feel like a replay, but I mean that I think is just I think that's how space flight works, right? All this is choreographed.
I mean, it's all routine.
Is that the same angle the camera took on?
I don't know.
Yeah,
about
it looks
that,
like
actually.
they just dropped the camera on the floor.
They did that last time too.
Yeah,
they did that last time too. But you know, so when they got out to the launch pad, all the astronauts kept walking up to the elevator that was out of order. They had to move over to the other elevator, load them 2 at a time. It's pretty funny.
I've been like, no, I'm taking the stairs. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to stretch my legs anyway. I'm about to be sitting down for like 8 straight hours. So
yeah, but yeah, going back to the risk for severe storms, I'm going to switch over to my. I'm just going to switch over to my other camera here. We're going to go up to the full Monty here, the full radar here, and pretty busy night actually in the Mid-South. You see some showers and thunderstorms, numerous tornado warnings now in northern Alabama, with some pretty good-looking severe thunderstorms. Actually, some decent damaging wind gusts there possible with those. So certainly something that that we'll want to that's going to weaken before it gets here into the Carolinas on Thursday. Again, Thursday, tomorrow being Thursday, looks okay. Friday, there's a pretty strong trough that's going to eject out. It's going to take on a bit of that negative tilt, but it's going to go into the Ohio Valley and kind of glance us because, again, that ridge to the south, I mean, this guy is still, he's still pretty strong.
Oh, yes, it is. And it looks like it's going to stay strong. I mean, having this little system go by to the north will knock it back a bit, but only kind of temporarily. And it's because of that. It's because of that track is the reason why I've been saying in the weather alerts I write for South Carolina DNR that I think that the upstate has the greatest chance for seeing severe weather, because it looks like that's where the best parameters are going to be. In addition to the fact that's where the shear looks best, but also that's where the timing looks best, because it looks as though this severe weather outbreak reaches the Western Carolinas late in the day or early in the evening. So the atmosphere will be cooling during the evening, and so becoming less unstable. So I think the best combination of instability and shear is going to be in the Western Carolinas and upstate South Carolina. But there's not a zero potential elsewhere. If nothing else, like you mentioned, there's a lot of wind. The winds are very strong aloft, and you only have to go up a couple thousand feet to get to those strong winds. Any thunderstorm, even a weaker one, could pull those winds down to the surface.
Yeah, the mixing height is not too high on Friday, but like you said, I mean, we're going to have 925 millibars. It's roughly 1,000 foot or so off the deck. Like, that's still going to be going about 50, 60 knots
Right.
in the afternoon. So that's, again, it's not going to take much. I expect that wind advisories are going to go up across much of the area as we see the astronauts walking out.
To walk you through this a little bit, I had the
Yeah.
opportunity to be there on Sunday night for those of you who watched our live stream from Kennedy Space Center. So these 4 astronauts, 2 American, 1 from the United Arab Emirates, and 1 from Russia, are waving goodbye to friends and family after being in quarantine for about 2 weeks now. They did have the opportunity to have some of their very close family members quarantine with them. Some of them may have taken NASA up on those opportunities, but again, some of their extended family and friends now out here near the NASA operations building. They're going to go ahead and get into Tesla Model X vehicles in just a few minutes, and then they're going to take a ride over to Launch Complex 39A. They did this exact routine to a T on Sunday night for what was the first attempted launch of this 6-month stay to the International Space Station. These 4 men are what known as Crew-6. They are actually, though, the 7th SpaceX flown crew to the International Space Station from U.S. soil, if you include the Demo 2 flight that carried 2 astronauts with it. This is going to take a few minutes here. They're going to wave goodbye to their friends and family. Don't expect, as I said the other night, to see any hugs or kisses or anything like that. They don't want to bring any sort of germs, any sort of contact with them up to the International Space Station. There is no doctor's office there, and that is why they do this quarantine. The quarantine does predate the pandemic. It has nothing to do with COVID. It is just a cautionary piece that they've done all the way going back to the Apollo program. You probably remember actually in the Apollo program when they'd come back down and be in the retro van talking to CBS or the president or whoever it may be. So I was invited down as a part of the NASA social event, and if my friends are where they were last time, they'd be off to the screen right if they got an opportunity to head back out here to watch the astronauts wave goodbye. We'll check in with them coming up probably later on in the evening hours, find out if they were able to accommodate that difficult logistic again. Jared, we know from all of our conversations that you had an opportunity to see the last shuttle go up, but let me ask Frank, because I don't think I've ever asked Frank this. Frank, have you ever witnessed a rocket launch in person?
No, I just missed it, though, once when I was a kid. When I was, I guess, 11 or 12, our family went down to Orlando. We visited Disney World while we were down there, and then on our way out, we stopped at the Kennedy Space Center and toured that one day, and it was interesting. One of the space shuttles, I don't remember which one, but one of the space shuttles was out on the launch pad, and it was being launched a few days later. So I did get to see that. I got to tour the assembly building, and I saw the creeper that carried the space shuttle out to the launch pad. I think they're still using that the same machinery now.
They have 2 crawlers,
Yeah,
and I
crawler,
learned
that's
this
right.
past weekend that only one of them has been retrofitted to carry the Artemis and the SLS tower. So they have 2,
Yeah.
but only one of them is really operational at the moment.
Yeah, so I was kind of mad. I was trying to talk my dad into sticking around an extra day or 2 so that we could watch the launch, but he wouldn't do it. So I'm kind of mad at him.
You can see on the top part of your screen 2 other folks, maybe 3 other folks dressed in the blue outfit of astronauts. So they have some fellow astronauts out here. Now, this gentleman, I believe, maybe, and also that may have been a woman who just walked past the screen here, looked to have the United Arab Emirates flag on their on their patch on their shoulder. So I don't know if they were alternates or backups or if they were just companions along with the one UAE astronaut that's going up. But certainly you can see there are other astronauts out here cheering on. And now we can actually see the friends and family are coming up to the Tesla vehicles. Now that the astronauts have been put inside or place themselves inside the back of these Tesla vehicles, the friends and family can kind of come past the rope line and get a little bit closer. Some of them wearing masks, some of them might still have their windows up. I'm certainly trying to paint a picture for anyone who might be listening to the audio version of this week's Carolina Weather Group episode, because this is certainly a very interesting Venn diagram here. We're talking the severe weather potential in the Carolinas on Friday, and we'll get back to that conversation in a minute, as we're also continuing to track this special coverage of NASA SpaceX Crew-6 here on the Carolina Weather Group.
Yeah, and James, to kind of keep it on the space topic there for a second, this is probably the best night they're going to have to launch weather-wise. Looking at the forecast over the next couple days from the 45th Weather Squadron from the U.S. Space Force, they go to a 20% chance of a weather-related scrub, and then a 40% chance of a weather-related scrub the day after.
The weather's looking pretty good tonight. It's not as good as it was on Sunday night. That was extremely favorable. They got a 95% chance of good weather, like you said, at the launch site tonight, and they're hoping that the weather through the ascent corridor is still good. They're monitoring it. So it's not bad, but I think Frank's got a look here for us as you can kind of see what is to come across the United States over the course of the next 48 hours or so. Okay, the astronauts now making their move away here from the NASA operations building. That license plate on that particular Tesla vehicle saying Crew Dragon, which is the name of the spaceship that they will be riding. Here through the darkness now, they will take a very quick trot over to Launch Complex 39A, and we'll continue to monitor these shots, including the dash cam that was added during Crew 5 as they make their police and military escort over to that launch complex. It'll take them past the iconic vehicle assembly building and the press site before they look up ceremoniously at their new home for the next 24 hours. When they get to that rocket, we will show it to you. They do the very classic lean back as we talked on Sunday night. We'll see it again in a few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and slide this back over to a corner, guys, because I know we have a few minutes and you guys can continue to talk about the severe weather potential with folks watching here in the Carolinas as we keep a close eye on the forecast for Friday, Jared.
Yeah. And I really think that, when we're talking severe weather potential, I think that the wind fields are such that I think we have to respect the possibility of that. But I think at the same time, the thermodynamics are going to be questionable.
It does not look like the greatest setup with the best instability for widespread thunderstorms. But on the other hand, the dynamics are great. You've got you have so much wind aloft and the shear's there for sure, especially in the upstate. So potential's there. It's just we'll just have to see how it shakes out, and hopefully it's a little more clear tomorrow. While we're talking about severe weather, let's back up to this evening. We kind of have some breaking news here. Go back to that satellite image.
Let me just do my radar only here, and let me get back to that real quick, and I will transition. There we go.
Yep, there we are. The radar satellite composite. You can see those thunderstorms that are in Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee heading this way. And the Storm Prediction Center has extended the rather marginal risk area that they have for this event to the east, and it includes western and central North Carolina now, and the I-85 corridor and North and South Carolina. So we are going to have to be on the lookout for some isolated severe storms. It looks like isolated damaging winds is going to be the primary concern here, but so we will have to keep an eye out for that through the overnight hours, and potentially seeing a severe storm here and there during the late night hours.
Interesting. It's a bit of a hail-driven risk too. So this is the hail potential. It's a 5% hail potential across here, and then the wind potential is actually more towards the Western Carolinas. But yeah, they're highlighting this for the potential for severe hail. So there you go. It's been a minute. I feel like it's been a minute since we had a hail-driven marginal around here, and And sure enough, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like we've got going for us. So, be interesting when we get into later. Later this evening, overnight. We may have some hailers go into Charlotte and Greensboro here, depending on how well. Because I suspect those are going to go more elevated, but there's still plenty of
Probably
instability
so.
aloft.
Right, especially
Yeah.
east of the mountains. We have a bit of a wedge set up
Yeah.
east of the
Yeah.
mountains right now. So
Yep. You got that
yeah,
wedge there,
makes
and then
sense that there would only be a hail threat in that area.
Yep, absolutely. Frank, speaking of things that are cold, we'll get back to cold. Well, first of all, meteorological winter is over.
Correct.
And that ended. That kind of went by the wayside. Today's first day of meteorological spring, and I'll tell you what. I mean, I put winter in scare quotes because it really wasn't. Aside from that week and a half in December,
Right.
really not much to speak of as the pollen indicates. So you have to grab that tweet again if you don't mind.
Oh yeah,
pollen.
Let's bring that
Yeah.
up. The tweet from Ed Petrowski of
Yeah.
ABC 15 in Myrtle Beach,
Yeah, this
WPDE, showing what it looks like at Myrtle Beach with all that pollen in the Atlantic. It looks like there has been a hazardous material spill. It's not. It's just pollen, but it looks gross.
Oh yeah,
in the waters off Myrtle Beach right now.
My black SUV looks like a school bus at this point. I don't know if I need to stop at railroad crossings now and open the door. I'm just confused. I might get a stop sign on the side and see if anybody notices. It is gnarly, and that is because we just had in a lot of places the second warmest winter on record.
Right.
In many spots, including right here in Charleston. Second warmest winter on record at Charleston International Airport. Well, second warmest February on record at the Charleston International Airport. I want to say, I just wrote this. I just wrote this post. I should remember this. I'm getting all my records confused. There's just so many records, but I think it was the third warmest winter on record down here. And that's
sounds
saying
about right.
something.
Yeah. Melissa was looking over that stuff today, and she'll have some kind of report out the next day or so from us at the climate office. But it was a high-ranking February and winter for warmest winter for several stations in South Carolina. And we really only had one cold snap, and it was a doozy, no doubt about it. But we actually had a below zero reading, and even in South Carolina at Caesar's Head from that cold snap. Yeah. But that was it. That's really the only winter we've had, especially across the coastal plain, particularly the low country, where you only had, 3 days where it got down to freezing, aside from that cold snap at the end of December?
Yeah, we didn't have any days below freezing at or below freezing in February. The coldest we got here in Charleston at the North Charleston Climate Site, which is usually the pretty good representative of of the area, it only got down to 33 once, and that was early. That was February 4th. So it was the only fifth time that we've ever had a February that did not have a sub-freezing temperature.
Yeah.
But
something else that's interesting, as best I can tell, there hasn't been a flake of snow anywhere in South Carolina this winter, I should say. There's been some sleet a couple times, and that goes into the climate record as snow. Mm-hmm. So there's been a couple of times where there's been a trace of sleet. But I went back and spot checked those observer forums, and where that trace of snowfall was reported, in every case I checked, it was sleet. So that is extremely rare for there to be no snow. We're not known for snow in South Carolina, but only once has it happened in the past before this year did we go through an entire winter with no measurable snowfall.
That's impressive.
100 years ago.
God, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Typically you hear something in the upstate.
Right.
At this point in the year. But and it's not that we didn't have good setups atmospherically, except for the whole temperature problem. We had that rolling ball of an upper low. Just didn't have the cold air.
Right. Yeah. We only had the cold air for that roughly week around Christmas. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. But with that being said, March can bring some surprises.
Yes, and I've been concerned about a surprise like that. It may not be that much of a surprise. Some of the long-range models are showing a pretty decent cold snap around the middle of March. starting about 10 days from now. It's something we have to watch out. Peach farmers are not going to be happy if it shakes out the way certain models have been showing that, with temperatures dropping into the 20s. I hope that doesn't happen. But there'll be a lot of farmers, not just the peach farmers, that will be unhappy if it gets that far below freezing, around the 15th.
Yeah, and this is that time of year where we kind of we could be potentially watching $1 billion weather disaster in slow motion right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not one of those things that you chase, and it's not what you traditionally associate with $1 billion weather disaster, but this is how we usually get the first one of the year, is through crop loss due to significant freezing temperatures. So
and we have to take this all with a grain of salt at this range. We're talking 10 days or so from now at this point. And so some of the models, the GFS, for example, isn't all that cold. It doesn't show any temperatures below freezing, at least in South Carolina. It does in North Carolina. But the other models look different and colder, put it that way.
Yeah.
Some of them a lot colder.
I think the bottom line is it's just, despite how warm it's been, it's still probably, climatology tells us that it is still too early to plant. I mean, down here in the low country, speaking for us, mid-March is the average last freeze. We've seen it go into April. So, if you got sensitive plants that you're looking at, you're getting really excited to plant, maybe give it a couple more weeks at least.
Right.
That's probably, yeah.
For us here, trying to plant stuff at the end of February or early March is just not a good move, and unless it's something you can protect, like if you're planting herbs in pots that you'll put out later, or you're starting tomatoes in pots and you're going to put them out in the garden later on. That's fine. You can bring those inside, but you don't want to put anything in the ground that you can't protect this early.
Yeah,
it's just too dangerous. You'll run too much of a risk of losing them.
Yeah, no doubt. But in the meantime, I think we're all just going to start wearing these again, because
I've legitimately thought about doing that. And for the audio listeners, Jared's holding up a mask, because 2020, I had no allergies. Amazing. Imagine that.
KN95s. I mean,
it's like they actually filter stuff or something.
You might need the big N95 though. You might need the tight seal. With that pollen is nuts.
I almost feel like my allergies were worse last year, and I don't know if it was shock of coming back to like exposure to it, or if it was just a seasonal change. But I definitely observed it last year.
Yeah, James, while you were gone, we showed a picture from Ed Petrowski.
I saw it earlier.
Yeah, the hazmat situation, aka all of the pollen in the ocean there. It's a good thing they got the spy balloon before all the pollen. Otherwise, it'd have been coated in yellow.
It would have made it easier to see.
It would have, maybe, but yeah. I mean, there's been a haze. I know that we've seen a haze around here the last couple days, and there seemed to have been some smoke in the air today that was giving kind of a little bit of a tint to the sunset here.
Yeah, there are some prescribed burns going on around South Carolina. So yeah. I'm not sure about North Carolina, but I know there are a few happening in South Carolina. So you might be smelling some smoke here and there, but it's one of those things we've got under control. Don't have to worry about it getting out of control. It's been a good bit of rain lately. So
I got a phone call today at WCNC from somebody saying that there was a fire up in Watauga County. I don't know if it was intentional or not, because we have had some prescribed burns, especially in northern Mecklenburg County. But yeah, they're definitely around, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think before we get too far, before we get back into, we see, in the corner of the screen here, Crew-6 is headed to the launch pad. They're arriving at the launch pad now.
I think they are arriving at the launch pad.
Yeah, they are arriving right now.
Because what you see on the left-hand side is the very end of what was once the crawler path, and they came past the SpaceX vehicle assembly building. Later on in tonight's special broadcast, we'll take you inside NASA's vehicle assembly building, but SpaceX actually plopped their vehicle assembly building right onto the very end of the crawler path, and then it just kind of goes up this little hill here, just like the Teslas are doing right now.
Yep. So Teslas are going to get there. Here's what's going to happen. We're very well versed in this at this point. Teslas are going to get there. The astronauts are going to get out. They're going to size up the rocket. They're going to bend back and take a look at it, and because
it's like you've done this before.
Then they're going to go to the elevator that doesn't work, and then realize that's not the right elevator, and then they're going to go to the elevator that does work.
I'm hoping they've got that figured out tonight.
I'm hoping they got that figured out too, but we'll see. And then from there, they walk down that gantry there, and then the SpaceX ninjas, the men in black, literally they look like ninjas. They're masked. We're in all black. They got numbers on the back to identify them. They're going to go in and they're going to go. They're going to strap them in. They're going to go through the pre-check procedure. They're going to
get the Wi-Fi password, all that
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, any minute thing. They're going to inspect the door with flashlights. Make sure all that is good, and then when everybody's satisfied that the capsule is in good shape, then they'll seal it off, and then all of the pre-flight checks will commence, and hopefully the igniter fluid will work this time. The T-tube, hopefully that'll work this time.
For anybody that's not picking up what we're laying down, this is the second launch attempt of the Crew-6 mission to the International Space Station. We got all the way down to T-minus 2 minutes on late Sunday night, early Monday morning, before they had to scrub. And now this is going to be their second launch attempt. They did have other windows that they skipped for a variety of reasons, but this will be their second actual launch attempt. And Jared, while I was looking over footage today, I found this picture of me from Kennedy. Here it is. Here, this is how I feel right now. Come on, cross those fingers. We can do this.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard NASA social look if I ever saw it.
Right. I believe the comms just updated us that they have arrived on schedule.
Cool. And again, they're good at schedule. They're great at schedule. It's just if the igniter fluid doesn't work, you can't get the thing off the ground. So there you go. Before we get too far into the space side of things, I know this. There's going to be the astronauts will come out and take a look and everything like that. But I did want to go back to some news that broke while we were here, while we were talking a few minutes ago, and that is the marginal risk for severe weather that was now extended into North Carolina, a hail-driven threat.
And what day is this one?
This is today. This is tonight.
This is tonight.
This is tonight. So thunderstorms ongoing, and we'll go back to the SATRAD and all that stuff. This thunderstorm complex here that's ongoing is going to run into some more stable air as it gets into the Carolinas, but looks like there's still going to be enough elevated instability to potentially allow for some hail to develop there. I think Frank's taking a look at the mesoanalysis right now. If you want to chime in on that. Yeah.
Yes, there it is, and you can see the wedge showing up pretty clearly here. These the dew point temperatures are shaded. The green shaded areas are 60 degrees plus dew point. 56 to 60 is the light blue area, and then the white is areas less than 56. So it's cool and thus very stable near the surface across the far northern part of South Carolina and much of North Carolina right now. And as a result, we're just not going to see anything other than a potential hailstorm from thunderstorms that ride up and over that cool layer near the surface that's very stable. So, but this just goes to show that some pretty vigorous thunderstorms might be riding above that cooler layer near the surface, and as a result, maybe cause some hail that reaches severe limits.
James, I don't have audio. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Welcome back in, Scotty Powell, joining us from Myrtle Beach. As we continue, I know our audio podcast listeners who might be listening at this another date really feel like we're probably hopping around here a little bit on you, and I apologize. This is kind of a very special edition of the Carolina Weather Group on this Wednesday, March 1st, but we did want to make sure we put this audio out after broadcasting live to Facebook and YouTube and all the networks of the Carolina Weather Group, so you weren't left out. But obviously we have a lot of very timely space news, a lot of very timely weather news. So if you haven't already found us on YouTube, that's where you can always join these live happenings. Love our audio podcast. There's a lot of rich things you can do with that, but sometimes it's just happening live. We'll do it live.
I'm not sure if you guys, sorry, I was actually talking to the station because I was off today, and I'm working Friday, so we're kind of getting a plan there. So I'm not sure if you touched on Myrtle Beach or not. If you haven't, I can kind of give a quick update.
We just looked at pollen.
Oh, okay. Well,
Before Scotty does that, I need him to fix his audio because you are way too overmodulated. Check, make sure we got the right audio device. I don't think we do because I can hear your ceiling fan.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Okay, while we do that, I'll take another live look here at the aerials provided to us from NASA and their helicopter circling around Launch Complex 39A. There you can see the Falcon 9 from SpaceX with the capsule Crew Dragon capsule named Endeavour up top. Our astronauts arrived a short time ago. We have not yet seen them come back out, but they're going to come out in pairs of 2 and do the iconic lean back. So, Scotty, we'll give you another audio check here and then be prepared for me to interrupt you for the iconic lean back.
Is this better? You guys
That
better?
is so much
Yes.
better.
All right, good deal. So yes, you saw the pollen. I'm mad at Ed because I actually posted the pollen picture first, and then he blew up. You know, he got a better picture
Because he's
obviously.
Ed.
That's right. But I'm telling you, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen today. I was off work today, took a walk out on the beach because it's so nice, and you know, like how you see oil slicks in the ocean. Well, this was a pollen slick, is what I call it. It's just a big old line of pollen, and occasionally the waves would get caught up in the pollen, and it would be this greenish yellow thing, and you're just like, so nasty. But, anyways, severe weather wise, I think our area, and you guys, please correct me if I'm wrong here because I'm not sure what you all covered there, but looks like as it gets to the coast, it's really lacking the moisture needed for us to see widespread storms. It's definitely going to be some gusty winds out there. So even if we got some showers, that could transition some of those gustier winds to the surface. But as of severe weather, we may luck out here in the Grand Strand, southeastern North Carolina, as it looks like a lot of the energy and moisture is more further to our north. But it's something we're watching. I think we're still under that slight risk of severe weather. But I think right now the main thing would be the gusty winds, maybe even outside of thunderstorms. We could see some wind gusts 35, 40 miles per hour. So, and obviously that could bring down a tree or two and cause some power issues. But overall, severe weather-wise, I'm not totally sold on it here. I think we're just kind of lacking that moisture that's just not here.
It's so interesting because this showed up on like the day 6 or day 7 outlook from the SPC as a 15% chance risk. Obviously, a lot can change in 6 or 7 days, and I'm not trying to hold them to that. But what I'm trying to say is it's not often that you get that early of a heads up. And I think that's why, even though this seems to be fizzling, it seems to be trending down for Friday. I think a lot of us are still sitting there going, okay, but I'm actually going to give it another beat to see if it bounces back because of how early we kind of saw it coming. Again, that doesn't commit us to it. But because that was such an unusual heads up, I'm willing to almost wait it out more than I think had it not been that way.
You have to respect the wind field.
Yeah, I think,
Right.
like you said, Jared, the wind field is amazing. Man, we could see some gusty winds, and it even a heavier shower brings down some of those wind gusts. So the wind energy is definitely there. I think it was Monday night, Jared. You may remember my days were running together, but we had that warm front move through, and Monday night was extremely windy here along the coast. I mean, you could hear around 10:30, 11 o'clock the winds, and it looks like we've got some action here, James.
Yeah, we'll take you back out to Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. You can see the astronauts here. I can't tell from this distance which 2 astronauts this are, but you can see them leaning back. And this was something that really started with the SpaceX Demo 2 flight because of the way that the futuristic and stylish-looking astronaut suits are built. They have to actually physically arch their backs backwards in order to see the top of the rocket. Spoiler alert, I think they're going to have this elevator situation figured out. The one on the right is roped off. No, guys, go left. Oh, guys, we just did this 2 nights ago.
I wonder if they. I wonder if that's at this point just a
gag,
good luck thing. I don't know.
There's a lot of tradition.
I mean, maybe they watched the replay of the Carolina Weather Group.
Yes,
coverage
that's exactly what happened. And they
saw
went,
that we
Jared
were
found
making
that
fun
really
of them.
funny. Yeah,
and they were like, "Oh, we're going to get that guy again."
So tell me, James, maybe you know what's with those numbers on the backs of those support staff guys that are dressed in black?
I think it's like Clone Wars. So you have to be able to tell them apart.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I do think that's more or less what it comes down to. Is I think just because of the head to toe of the ninja outfit, including a lot of face coverings, it's I think just for identification reasons. And again, the face coverings, whether that's pandemic related or not, I don't know. We didn't do any SpaceX launches pre-COVID, but again, every little thing becomes a foreign object. During Crew-5, after they got the capsule sealed off, they had to reopen it because they detected a foreign object. It turned out to be a strand of hair.
Maybe they're just trying not to breathe in pollen.
It could totally be that.
Totally
Maybe.
that.
That
I mean,
would definitely be true if they were launching from Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
yeah. I mean, you keep in mind too is that if you look back at old footage of the Apollo program, you look back at old footage of the space shuttle. I mean, they're always wearing that kind of protective gear. It's essentially a clean room. At the end of the day, this is essentially a clean room, and so they've got to maintain the integrity of that. And SpaceX
I'm going
just
to show
happens
you
to
guys
just
something here real fast. The astronaut's going to pick up the phone on the wall. It looks like a pay phone, and he's making a call to a close friend or a family member. Again, you're going to see them. They have an opportunity here to make one last contact. There you go, phone in hand, giving him a call to somebody.
That's so cool. I'm glad you got to experience this, James, because now we get all the background knowledge and the specific details that go on. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the NASA social event is really cool, and it's open to anybody. Yes, they make selections. Yes, 25 people are lucky enough to get selected. I was one of them for the Crew-6, but it's open to anyone to apply. You can have lots of followers. You could have a little amount of followers. You could be a still photographer. You could be a video photographer. You could just be a selfie photographer on TikTok. They want to hear your story, and anyone is eligible.
Yeah, then they go. They're walking up. Yep, these guys are.
That was a quick phone call.
I believe. Are these still the same two first astronauts?
Oh, okay.
No, I actually think we may have missed the camera shot of these.
Oh, they
two
didn't
moving
back. They didn't go back to it.
They didn't go back to it, maybe because we were watching the phone call happening. But all four astronauts are now atop the tower. They will walk across the crew arm and begin the slow process of getting buckled in and doing comm checks. I'm going to step aside. I will join you back out here at the top of the hour for more coverage of the Crew-6 launch from Kennedy Space Center. But I will let Jared, Frank, and Scotty continue on with our weather chat here this evening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll bring this home, and we'll bring this home. We'll keep NASA in the corner there. We'll keep an eye on that. Love that worm. I love that they brought back the old worm logo for at least some of this stuff. And then they're going to walk across the gantry and then get strapped in and get ready to go. But Scotty, where we were talking about before is that lack of severe weather potential. I mean, and that 15% kind of it seems to me that they're going to probably trim that back to the Western Carolinas, put us in a marginal. I think again, we have to respect the wind field here. I mean, the wind field is, seriously impressive.
It's going to be gusty, no matter if there's storms or no storms. It's definitely going to be some gusty winds. And I know yesterday, I haven't looked at much today, but yesterday our models, our in-house Baird model was showing, from Charleston up to Myrtle Beach to Wilmington, 35, 40 mile per hour wind gusts, just outside of any storms going on. Yep. So it's definitely going to be windy out there, so you can at least expect that. And then as the atmosphere works, you have a lot more wind energy above our heads.
Mm-hmm.
You could amplify that 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gust to 60, 70. And if you get some heavier rain to drag that to the surface, that's where you could see some isolated damage and wind gusts. So like you said, you just have to respect the environment of what's all going on, not only here at the surface, but what's going on above our head.
And I think it's also worth, keeping in mind too, that the wind shear at the 1 kilometer and the 3 kilometer level, pretty good.
And we saw that was it Monday? We had that warning pop up in upstate South Carolina.
Yeah, we had.
I think it was Monday. Yeah.
Of all days for us to have a tornado warning.
We were in the White Room.
Yeah, and it was quick. It was one of those quick, 3-4 frames, and then it dissipated. But there was just enough shear in the environment. I don't believe, Frank, you probably are more connected than I was. I don't think anything was confirmed with that, but radar image was.
I don't think they even surveyed out there.
Yeah.
I don't think they had any reports of damage. But it's one of those things that the rotation showed up for about 5 minutes, and they got tight enough that they decided it'd be best to issue a warning, and then 10 minutes later, it was really gone. So it didn't last long.
But that's kind of the setup you could see Friday. You could see one of those, for about a 5-10 minute period, enough time for a tornado to drop down quickly and then dissipate. So it's something you got to watch.
Hazardous showers.
That's right.
That's what they call them. in the special weather statements here. Starting to look at some of the the high res runs for tomorrow too, and I think the other thing too is that we may have a chance of showers tomorrow. We could see some thunderstorms down here in the low country, a very slight chance. Again, that I think that ridge is going to kind of stamp that out a little bit. There's a little shortwave coming by.
Done and Ingress has started.
And all right, so they're getting into the ship now. But yeah, there could be some showers across the area. I'm looking at the high res, just peeking at this the onesie tomorrow, and it sneaks it sneaks some of that
clear.
in.
Seat 2, how me?
Kaylin's asking a question about a tornado risk for Friday. I do believe if there's, I guess, a severe weather threat, it would be the upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, into the Piedmont. Frankie, we were even talking earlier tonight, that could maybe even extend partially into the Midlands. But if there is an area to watch in the Carolinas, it's definitely the upstate of South Carolina into western North Carolina.
Yeah, that's where I think the best combination of shear and instability is going to be.
Yeah, and this towards Campobello. So
good evening, Woody and Steve. Good to hear from you.
So sounds like they're starting to do their comms checks. Here we're hearing the NASA feed in the background here. I'm gonna take that down a little bit more just so we can finish talking about the weather here. But you can see, the astronauts are up there. They're making phone calls, making sure they turn the oven off. Things like that. The dog is watered and the plants are fed. Things like that. Among other, who knows? I don't know what I would talk about if I had that call. But suffice to say, we got a couple showery days coming up, but the weekend looks good, and we're gonna actually have a little bit cooler weather this weekend. It looks like one front's gonna come through Friday, probably not knock things down too terribly much, but then Saturday night another front comes through. Seems to cool us off pretty nicely down here. We're going to get back in the low 70s as opposed to the upper 70s, as opposed to rewriting the record books,
as opposed to 86 like you had yesterday and today.
Right, exactly. We're just taking the record books and just scribbling all over them at this point. Scotty, I know that you weren't here for that first part of the discussion, but I want to go back to you and do how has Myrtle Beach's record books fared? Because I'm pretty sure that you guys have had some rewriting up there too.
Let's see. Monday, Myrtle Beach broke a record. It was 76, and I think we got 78. I know 78 is what we got to. I think the record was 76 or 77, one of the two. Mm-hmm. So we broke that record. Yesterday, we were close to Florence. I think we were within a degree. I think the record was 82. We got to 81 in Florence. Mm-hmm. Myrtle Beach, we had just a little bit of a sea breeze kick in there at the end that kind of capped off the warming to the upper 70s. So the record was 80 degrees for Myrtle. So we were just short of that. Today we had some cloud cover that moved in. So we didn't do that, but we challenge tomorrow's again, a little bit cooler. I think our record is 79 in Myrtle. So that's depending on cloud cover and sea breeze. We could manage to get there before the sea breeze really kicks in the afternoon. So, but yeah, we broke one record and we're pretty close on a few other days.
Yeah, I'm again looking at the models here a little bit, and I think you're going to have you may have a little bit of a harder time there, but we're very light. Charleston's forecast at 84, record is 85, set 97. So we're going to get close again. We've been doing pretty well on rewriting those records. We just had our second warmest February on records, third warmest winter on record here.
It's funny you say that. We Myrtle Beach, I think, was the fourth warmest February on record. My chief meteorologist and I, Frank Johnson, yesterday we were looking back, and the top 5 warmest Februaries was all followed by below normal Marches. Now, some of them were a little bit below normal than others, but the trend was if you're warm in February, above normal, you're below normal in March. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about, Frank was alluding to a cool down. We were talking about, does that happen again this year? Because it seemed like all winter we were supposed to see that colder weather, and we may get a day or two, but we warmed right back up. So how strong is that ridge going to be? Is it where's that cutoff between really cold temperatures and around average? Is it here across the low country of South Carolina, or does it get in the colder weather, get into the South Carolina? I think North Carolina, the further north you get into North Carolina, you're definitely going to see some cooler temperatures. But where does that cut off here in South Carolina at? Does part of the state get it, the northern half? And where you are, Jared, do you stay a little bit warmer? It's going to be interesting because I think somewhere right there, Midlands South, there's going to be a cutoff somewhere.
Yeah, it could be, and the models, of course, as you'd expect, 10 days out are kind of all over the place with just how cold it's going to get. The GFS doesn't really show it getting below freezing anywhere in South Carolina, and INSEP's ensembles aren't all that cold either. But look at the Canadian ensembles and especially the European ensembles; they're really cold. European ensemble control run was just nuts how cold it was around the 12th and 13th. It was just brutal for March, and let's hope that doesn't happen. And that model has a tendency to put out some wild solutions. On the other hand, it just goes to show what worst case scenario might be.
Yeah, and I think we all joked here, maybe at the beginning of February. It was like, if it is going to snow, it probably will be mid-March when everybody's just ready for winter to be over with, and then it finally does do something outside of the mountains. But
right, yeah, same story about the EPS control model. Yeah. It also was kind of showing a winter storm out toward the end of the run, which you can't say it won't happen, but you're certainly not going to put that in your forecast 14 days out.
I remember a couple of years ago, Jared. I'm not sure if he was with us yet, Frank, or not, but we had a little winter storm on the weekend, and we actually had snow and pollen mixed together. It was in March.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yellow snow.
Yeah. The other kind.
The kind you don't normally think of.
Yeah. That's I mean, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be, you always get concerned. We were talking about this earlier, and you always get concerned for the farmers. Crops going nuts, everything's going nuts. I mean, stuff's flowering left and right. My fig tree is losing its mind right now. It's so happy. It's just leafing out like crazy. And in 2017, when we had a really hard freeze after a very warm February, I remember vividly the leaves on that fig tree dying, and then new leaves just working their way around those old leaves that died after the freeze. And so yes, it was resilient, but it goes to show you that again, no such thing as a done deal here when it comes to winter.
Right.
Brad Panovich tweeted out today, March is the most variability in weather in the Carolinas. I think record highs or like in the 90s, and the record low is like -4. It's like there's that much difference that can happen in March. It's just the crazy month.
Yeah, and you certainly can't rule out winter storms this late. I mean, I lived through one when I was about 10, March 24th of 1983. We had 10 inches of snow in Rock Hill from that day. It was the fourth day of spring.
Maybe it was 2017 when we had a foot of snow in Winston-Salem, Greensboro a couple of years ago.
That would
it was like March 25th. Yeah, it was like at the end of March.
And it's not that long ago. There was Rock Hill had an inch of snow on an early April morning. I don't remember exactly what year, but I remember it happening.
Oh yeah, I mean we've had events like that here.
I remember a few times St. Patrick's Day in Morganton when living there, we had snow on the ground. So.
Oh yeah, I remember. I mean, I vividly remember having this really slushy snow in my freshman year of high school. That's 99, I want to say, 98, 99, somewhere in there. I mean, March of 99, we had this really slushy outbreak of snow. I remember everybody just stopped what they were doing, and they were like, "No!" And we all went outside, and and it was like, "No way!" Yeah, this really just slushy mess of snow. But yeah, it was snow. During the middle of the day, no less. It was it was kind of fun, but yeah, it just shows great smarch weather we're having here.
Exactly.
Right. I think
lousy smarch weather.
This lousy smarch weather. Yeah, I think you just go back to The Simpsons for inspiration there. And
there was an interesting yesterday from Wilmington, NWS Wilmington, and I tweeted it out. They were looking back over winter, and for those who may say, we call meteorological winter from December 1st to the end of February. Even though spring doesn't start officially until March 20th or 21st, our seasons are a little bit different in meteorology, and the climate over the southeast North Carolina, northeast North Carolina was resembled basically, I think, within a tenth of a degree or so of San Antonio, Texas this year. That was like the comparability, of what we experienced here this winter time. So it just tells you how warm it was.
Yeah.
San Antonio is warm all the time, unless you just get one of those freakishly crazy cold dives of air down there. Normally San Antonio is warm at any time of the year. So that just kind of shows you how warm this winter's been for some portions.
Right.
Yeah. That ridge.
Yep. Well, if you're wondering where all the cold air has been, except around Christmas when we got kind of the doozy of a cold snap, but if you're wondering where the cold air has been, it's been out west. Jared, show him my screenshot.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Satellite of the western states right now with yet another winter storm going through California, Nevada, and Arizona right now. A lot of what you're looking at, the white stuff out there on the visible satellite picture, it's not clouds, it's snow. Even into Southern California, some of the mountain ranges. I think even into San Diego County, Jared, have some snow on them.
There was hail today on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
Right.
In Los Angeles. I got a text from a friend. Yeah. He's out there.
It was interesting to see the weather over there over this past weekend. I mean, there was places in Southern California, 900 feet in elevation, that had an inch of snow. Like, that's in getting into Los Angeles and the outskirts, not the mountains, but even into the suburban areas, they were seeing accumulating snow. So pretty fascinating. One other thing to talk about, I don't know if you've noticed this, Jared, or not, but our sea surface temperature here in Myrtle Beach is already 61 degrees.
Yeah, let me that's a really good point, and that's what you start thinking about that too. It's like, oh my goodness, is this warm weather mean we're going to have more hurricanes? I wouldn't go that far, but you do think about those sea surface temperatures.
Yeah, and even if you just like, hey, you like a warmer ocean to get into, the water's already 61 at the end of February. If we keep this trend up, it'd be like bath water this summer.
Yeah. We'll have to think about doing a hurricane seasonal prediction show sometime in April after the guys at Colorado State issue there. Maybe we can get Phil Klotzbach on talk about.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting too, with us, potentially flipping a neutral and maybe even in a Nino. That's
right. The crew is ready for contract.
It's going to be really, really, really interesting. So right now, let me see if I can.
SpaceX copies, stand by for umbilical comm check.
Yep. So we got comm checks going on and all that fun stuff. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to we're getting into it. We're getting into a very meteorologically interesting time of year for sure. I'm
pulling up ocean temperatures, right? Water temperatures.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
Let's see down into Winna Bay.
Yeah. It's 65 at the Capers near shore.
Yeah, 70 degrees already in Winna Bay, which is in Georgetown.
Yeah.
Spring Bay Pier is 61. The Apache Pier in North Myrtle Beach is 62. Wilmington, 62
Commander,
already.
Pilot, MS1, MS2, comm check.
So yeah, those
Commander has you loud and clear.
Yeah,
water temperatures are warm.
I mean, quite a thing, that's for sure. Yeah. All right, so any final weather thoughts before we transition to James in space?
Well, one thing we better talk about is the current situation we have with the marginal risk that's been extended into the Western Carolinas.
Yeah, this is
talk about that one more time before James takes over.
Yeah, and again, that's something that's kind of broken as we've been on the air tonight. We'll go back to that. Look here, and again, we have marginal severe weather risk stretching from Greenville to Charlotte to Greensboro into western North Carolina, and this is going to be mostly a hail-driven risk. So we'll go to the hail probabilities here, and about 5% risk of maybe a hailstorm, a little bit of a marginally severe hail, as we have a complex of thunderstorms that's continuing to move across the Mid-South this evening. We've had plenty of tornado warnings on this line. We've had severe thunderstorm warnings on this line. It's going to run into some more stable air over the Carolinas, and that will certainly help to limit that more of that wind damage threat. But as the storms become a little bit more elevated, there's still plenty of instability. Could see some marginal hail there. So kind of an interesting night. You might hear some pings of hail tonight if you're in western or central North Carolina.
Yep, and looking at the outlook, we can say one thing we have not been able to say all winter long is that it looks like an I-85 special. It's all north and west of I-85 tonight. We haven't been able to use that for a winter storm. We'll use it for a severe weather situation.
Yeah.
Marginal severe weather situation.
Yeah, this is what a season it's been. It's been quite a thing. So I know James is getting ready, but right now we're watching in the here on the NASA feed. And I know James is getting in here to take on some space coverage here, but we'll take the NASA feed here full real quick. You see that the astronauts, they are reclining into position. They've been strapped in. They are getting into position for flight. And from here, there is going to be lots of comm checks, lots of discussion as we get ready to see if Crew-6 can.
Dragon SpaceX seats are in the launch position.
Yep, there we go. Seats are in the launch position. The tray tables are up, folded up. They've turned their phones off and they're preparing to launch. So
seats are in the fully inclined position now.
Yep.
Are their phones in plane mode or shuttle mode?
Space mode, yeah.
Space mode.
Yeah.
There's no shuttle here. Let's be clear.
Yeah, special mode only for astronauts. It's space.
This is a dragon.
Yeah, yeah. The dragon is going to breathe fire. So, like Candace put it the other night, the dragon is gonna spout fire and launch into the sky.
Yeah.
So,
Dragon SpaceX, you are go for.
Well, guys, I'm going to drop off and let James have more space on the screen here. So I'm going to bed, and you'll have fun with chasing the launch.
See what you did there.
See you, Frank.
See you, Frank. Take care.
All right, to all of our viewers right now, thanks for listening and watching this edition of the Carolina Weather Group. We're going to take you back out to Kennedy Space Center for live continuing coverage of the countdown of NASA SpaceX Crew-6. Countdown to launch coming away 12:34 a.m. Eastern time tonight. Some of our viewers and listeners may be leaving us now. If not, stay tuned. We'll be back with more space coverage right after this.